Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, Mr. Moohead. And for the next, for God's sakes, hour or so, we'll be talking about what's happening in the wide world of sports. And some of it is pretty ridiculous. We'll be talking some Browns fans' stupidity, and we'll be talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers' big game against the Boston Celtics tonight, which is must-watch TV. If you're anywhere in Cleveland, if you're not watching the Cavaliers tonight, then you're not a good fan. You're not supporting Northeast Ohio sports. You got me? All you complain about, you motherfuckers, all you complain about, oh, we don't win. And look what you got this year. You got an absolute doggy day winner, man. You got the best team in the NBA. If you're not watching that team, you voted for an administration that throws people out of the country. Get out of Ohio. What would Bruce Dredden say? Oh, just get the fuck out of Ohio. If you're not watching this Cavalier team, there's something wrong with you. That's really the way I feel. People are complaining on Twitter about all kinds of shit. And it's like, why? Why are you doing this? Let's start the program today, updating what's happening as far as the Cavaliers and the Celtics. They've just put up the most recent Boston Celtic injuries. Kristaps Porzingis is questionable still due to illness, and he's day-to-day. Drew Holiday is officially out with his finger. He's been ruled out for Friday's game against the Cavaliers. Jaylen Brown remains day-to-day with a thigh injury, and he is questionable, but he did participate in shoot around today. So I expect to see Jaylen Brown out there and Tatum out there, you bet. And I expect to see Porzingis out there too. But the fact that Drew Holiday's out, it's going to be an interesting game. The game is being played 7:30 in Boston. You can catch it on FanDuel. You can catch it on ESPN. As for I've never seen so many times the Cavaliers being the national game. I mean, could you imagine? And there are people in Cleveland who are just like, what are the Cavaliers? I don't even know. I don't want to talk about the Browns. And the only reason is because I'm a loser and they're losers, and that's what we do. We congregate together. We share our misery. Good God. All right. Other things that I like to start out the program with are just the headlines. If you didn't see, the 76ers, Joel Embiid to miss the remainder of the regular season due to a knee injury. This has been a repetitive story. The process is dead. The 76ers are dead, and Embiid is always hurt, and they have the kind of problem that doesn't just go away overnight. They put all of their marbles into this particular team, and bit by bit, one by one, it's all blown up from Ben Simmons on down. It's and Embiid just crapped all over the floor. Matthew Stafford has decided that he's staying put in Los Angeles. Now, for the complaining Browns fans, I love the way fans do it. It's like, well, then just go ahead and trade for Stafford. It's like, why do you think he'd want to come here, you stupid fucks? So he's restructured his deal to stay with the Rams so that nobody will ask him questions about Cleveland. What would the point be? But I love the way the Browns fans are just sitting back and saying, well, in that case, just go ahead and draft, the quarterback, let's just go ahead and get Shador. Let's just go ahead and get Cam. And then when they do the wrong thing, then they whine and complain. It's just absolutely unbelievable to me. Here's a sign of the times. All right. When did you ever think that you would hear anybody say something like this? The University of Texas raises its ticket prices as player costs go up. I always thought universities were there to educate our children. God, have I been under a misconception? This is unbelievable. The University of Texas will be raising football ticket prices by $13 per game as the program, already one of the richest in the nation, tries to meet rising costs. Pull out your violins and play for the University of Texas. Never exactly the education capital of the world. Now, I'm not saying that people from Texas are stupid. Not saying that. Maybe they're stump jumpers, but they're not stupid stump jumpers. So let's make that clear. But the University of Texas, it's not like people say, I was valedictorian and I graduated summa cum laude from the University of Texas. Hook 'em horns. I don't think so. Athletic Director Chris Del Conte announced the price increase this week in his annual campus town hall. He detailed the program's expected finances upon approval of a landmark $2.8 billion lawsuit settlement that lays the foundation for players to receive money directly from their schools. Texas will have nearly $30 million in new costs and about 200 new scholarships across all sports. I just don't understand. This has just become a business. If they're one of the richest programs, you know what this reminds me of? It's like Elon Musk owning X and saying, if you want to validate your real identity, you have to pay me money to do it. Like, fuck you, you South African apartheid prick. Fuck you. I'm not paying you for that. I know who I am. I don't have to pay you to tell me who I am. You can only type this many words unless you pay me. Fuck you again. Look, open your fucking eyes and see the wealthy getting wealthier. Oh my God. If you don't see it, you're blind and you deserve to get fucked in the ass. What can I tell you? But I mean, who thought that we would reach the point where it's like the wealthiest college programs are crying poor? Unreal. And it's all because they had to give money to the athletes, which, of course, companies stole their identities and made money off them, video game companies, for ages, but that's okay because they're the rich people. They get richer and they afflict everything they touch. Next, former Oregon quarterback Dillon Gabriel is angry because he's 5'11". He's looking to join Kyler Murray, Bryce Young, and Russell Wilson, the big three, among the only starting quarterbacks who are under 6 feet tall in the NFL. Here is what Dillon Gabriel had to say. I had the most experience ever, as you can imagine. Can you hear me okay? I don't. Tell me about the quarterbacks who are under 6 foot, okay? Just tell me about them. Kyler Murray, Bryce Young, and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was good in his day, but the game has kind of swamped him over at 35 years of age. Kyler Murray, I mean, he can motor around out there, but I don't remember seeing them in a Super Bowl. And Bryce Young, I'm not ready to say anything about Bryce Young. And as far as that goes, you take a look at a guy like like Tagliavoa. Is that how you pronounce his name? I think everyone just calls him what, Tua? He's hurt every other game. I mean, and he's scrambling around. And meanwhile, the quarterbacks that go to the Super Bowl are the guys who can look over the top. It's like the Buffalo Bills never win the Super Bowl, but they get there, and they do it with the Jim Kelly guys, and now with Allen. Got to have a guy who can see over the line of scrimmage. It would, and that's for all you people who really want Baker Mayfield. He's a midget too. Hey, it's hammer time. Are you there, Jim?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're a little bit fuzzy-wuzzy, but yeah.
Well, I'm kind of actually en route to the north coast of America, so that's the reason why. So I'm actually headed up for a big volleyball tournament.
Ah, good for you.
And at some point, hopefully, I'll be there in time to go find a nice sports bar and watch this game tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's must-watch television. I mean, again, you can't say you're a Cleveland sports fan and you're really rooting for the small to mid-sized market and then not watch. I mean, that's a cop-out to me. And the next thing is, if you're a Minnesota Timberwolves fan like Tony the Calf is, you're probably wondering, how did something so good start going so bad? Anthony Edwards he's gotten 16 technical fouls. I'll tell you, that is quite an accomplishment if you have an anger management problem. What games have we played at this point? We're like 49-10, 59 games, and that's about how many the NBA has played. And he's got 16. That means virtually 1 in every 3.5 games he gets a technical foul. And that magic 16 means an automatic 1-game suspension. But of course, they're trying to get them to rescind the 16th one. Like, that's going to make a damn bit of difference for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But you know,
and it's only going to be another day or two before he gets another one. When you've had 16 of them, don't you think there's some kind of a problem at this point?
Yeah,
seriously.
He has a serious anger management problem, yeah. And he's not doing this for the best interest of the team.
No, it just, at some point in time, if you have 16 technical fouls, even with as many games as they've played, something is wrong with your game. The refs are not that bad all the time.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, and the other thing that makes it...
it's only... I'm sorry. And it's only a matter of time. Even if they rescind it, he'll have another one within a week and a half. So.
Yeah, it's... The thing that makes it worse is that the Timberwolves depend on Edwards. It's not like they're not going to sit there and say, oh, we're turning the keys over to Rudy Gobert. It's not like that. He's the guy, and you name any primary. Can you imagine if Donovan Mitchell, for all the times he's getting whacked, if he got 16 technical fouls and kept getting thrown out of games? I mean, they need him down the stretch, and that's the way it is with Edwards. But he doesn't seem to either understand or care. So that's. Another thing I wanted to talk about before we get into the specifics of the Browns fans who were ignoramuses and the Cavaliers, and maybe I'll save this because I wanted to say the thing I wanted to say about the whole the way things are playing out with Nick Chubb and Myles Garrett, which are two completely different situations, but you would never know that if you were reading X. X sounds like something that people with hoods would burn on somebody's lawn. I can't get used to saying that, knowing that an apartheid South African owns the company. Okay, I can't deal with it. Twitter. I'll just keep calling it Twitter and pretending that it's somewhat what it used to be. But they're likening the two circumstances of these players, and it's foolishness. Myles Garrett has played for 8 years, and I see them bringing up, well, you know, we put up with him when he flipped his car, and we put up with him. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? The guy has given you 8 great years of football. The guy is a consensus top 3 defensive end in the league. He's a guy who, if he remains healthy, is going to end up in the Hall of Fame. He's given 8 years of his life to the pathetic Jimmy Haslam, and he's turned over his body and his injuries into the hands of Jimmy, and Jimmy's done what Jimmy does, which is he makes the team worse. And how you can compare that to a situation like Nick Chubb, let me explain that to you retarded people. I know it's not the word I'm supposed to use, but you're fucking retarded. A guy like Nick Chubb, it's unfortunate. Minkah Fitzpatrick did what he did to him intentionally. And it totally sucks that the guy is really badly injured and may never be the same again. The Cleveland Browns aren't just dumping him into a dumpster. They're letting him hit the free agent market. Now, I'm going to ask everybody a simple question. If you know that a sale is coming at a store, do you intentionally go there 3 weeks before the sale and buy something at twice the price you need to pay? Fuck no, you don't. This is not hard to figure out. You're really cutting in and out. I'm not hearing a Hammer.
I'm sorry. I just don't like it.
Yeah, you're going to have to try to reconnect. We can't hear you, unfortunately. I'd like to.
Maybe I'll try again.
Okay. You know, so it's ridiculous to compare these situations because what you're doing is you're getting an idea and a feel for what his value is. This is a business, folks. You may not like to admit it. You may be naive or just plain stupid. Anything is possible. But it's a business. Teams come in with offers. The Browns can match or go slightly above. It doesn't mean they've given up on him. So just shut the fuck up already with the nonsense. Just like you made up the goddamn Epstein list. And now, it's gone for good. The MAGA people are saying this. Oh, you know, that list, it's been gone since Epstein died. No, the list never existed. Or Donald Trump was on the list. Or somebody wanted to squelch it because Elon Musk was on the list. Who in the hell knows? And who in the fuck cares? You make shit up, and that's what happens. There comes a day when you have to admit that it's bullshit. All right? The same thing holds true with this Nick Chubb situation. Do I want Chubb to remain a Brown? Of course I do. Do I feel badly about what he's gone through? You bet. He's done everything he could possibly do to build his body and his strength to be the best football player that he could possibly be so that one stupid ass Pittsburgh Monongahela River drinking cocksucker could hit him late. That's what happened. So that he has more knee problems, that he breaks a foot as a compensatory injury, and so it goes. It's a sad, sad thing. I hope the Browns keep Nick Chubb. Do I think there's going to be a bidding war for him coming off of a broken foot on top of everything else? No, I don't. Do I think the Browns are trying to do something from a business perspective? Yes. And as far as Myles Garrett is concerned, the Browns are doing another business kind of thing, and Myles Garrett is doing the same thing. Look, fair is fair. Business is business. Players have their businesses. The teams have their businesses. And each party does what benefits themselves the most. And Myles Garrett has the right, as does Nick Chubb. They're the ones sacrificing their bodies, not Jimmy Haslam or Andrew Berry. They're the guys who are on the front lines who are taking the hits, just like the soldiers in every goddamn war. It's not the generals who are out there. Fuck no. It's not the Pentagon people. Fuck no. It's not the president of the United States. Fuck no. You see, he can talk big shit to Zelensky in front of his face, and he can get his hillbilly partner, J.D. Vance, to get on him even worse. But when it comes to a war, he ain't going to be fighting in it. That's for goddamn sure. These football players have a right to have a reason to control their destinies financially. Myles Garrett isn't talking about money. He wants to win. He wants to crown off all the hard work that he's done and crown it with a championship. And he knows it's not going to happen in Cleveland. And you know it's not going to happen in Cleveland. So what are you arguing about? And why are you being such pricks? I have no idea. As far as the Browns' position that they won't trade him, what are you going to do? His value is being weakened. That's the game that that Myles Garrett's people are playing. It's like, we'll sit it out the season. Fuck it. The money isn't important. So nobody's going to bid, like I was saying, running into their local TJ Maxx. Nobody's going to pay, 3 times as much. And people will wait, wait for the sale. And that's what every team is going to do. They're going to sit there and stare at the stupid ass Browns who go, better drop his price. He doesn't want to play for you. So that's, burning a candle from 2 different ends. That's what that is.
Well, if we had the Browns on the market to potentially buy him, then we would have an idiot team to overpay for it. So kind of like a certain number quarterback that wears 4, right? That's where the idiot team would be. It would be us. As far as Nick Chubb, a study came out today. They talked about what the franchise tag. Okay, only one position in the NFL is less than a running back for a franchise tag, and that is a kicker. That's it. No other position is as low as a running back. So, Nick Chubb, by wanting to go somewhere or whatever, he's done nothing wrong. All he's done is been a great guy for us. God bless him. Hopefully he finds the right spot,
Yeah, and sometimes, just like with Saquon Barkley, things turn out really good for a player who gets away from one place and gets to a place where they have better players, better blocking, and he's able to regain form. So I just want what's best for Nick Chubb. All right. That's what I want. I want what's best for Myles Garrett. That's what I want. And the Cleveland Browns as a business have to do whatever's best for them to make the football team better, which they haven't been good at doing. All right. Now, I don't want to be misconstrued here, Mr. Browns fan 85. All right. I could say that George W. Bush didn't fight in the wars. I can say that every Democratic president, Harry Truman, didn't go ahead. He pushed a button, but he didn't fight. No president of the United States is going to go to the front lines and fight for his country because it's all a bunch of fucking shit. And that was not just to single out one guy. It's to single out every single one of them. Their job is to send young men to die there. That's their job. And for insignificant things like Vietnam, and yes, I was alive then, I'm not sure that you were, And I knew people who died in Vietnam and lost their arms and legs there and came back with Agent Orange and died young. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. It isn't just a reflection on Donald Trump, for God's sakes. But he had a chance to go into the military, and he pussied his way out with a goddamn excuse. They all do. They're fortunate sons, every single one of them. When was the last time the last time he had a chance was McCain to vote for a president who actually served. And you know, his own party called him a coward and a loser for getting captured. I don't understand it. I really don't. No, I don't think he would have been a great president. I think he was a little long in the tooth. Maybe not as far gone as Biden. Believe me, I have no allegiance to the people who are in government. None whatsoever. Just like what priests really crave, none. Right. That's another name that comes up, Kareem Hunt. Like Kareem Hunt was somehow reborn with the Chiefs. No, he was not. Look at the yards per carry. He was barely over 3 yards. Stop. Kareem Hunt did a nice job while he was in Cleveland. He's lost a step, and he's not the same guy as he was. So, if we're going to do this stuff, at least if you're going to pick on one guy to hate and one guy to love, you're supposed to like the team and the players who do the really heavy lifting. And that would be both of those men. Now, if you have a problem with guys who underachieve like Juan Thornhill, I don't have a problem with that. If you see people trotting and not trying to run down the ball carriers from behind and just giving up on plays, you have every reason in the world to not be happy with that player. I get that. Guys who like Elijah Moore who drop passes or only, doesn't even have the requisite speed to get around on a poorly called jet sweep. That's that. You can get on those players, but why are you getting on players who are good players? I don't understand it. They've done what they can, but nobody's going to make the Cleveland Browns a winner as long as Haslam's there. That's a fact. I wanted to do something else, and this is in reference to the Cleveland Cavaliers and the move that they made. How we assess beforehand in the beginning, and then we wait until the end. And the whole George Niang, Karis LeVert thing for DeAndre Hunter. And it's a good start for Hunter and the Cavaliers. So I decided to focus in on Niang and see what he's doing in Atlanta. And again, it's not that I would ridicule George Niang because he's a team guy, very popular guy in the locker room, not in the best shape in the world. And he's not the kind of vertical player or ball handler. He can nail open shots. He's a guy who, if you pass the ball around real fast, you can catch him open. He's a very good catch and shoot guy. And he's doing a real nice job of that in his, so far in Atlanta. I was looking at his stats. He's shooting 45% from the field, but 43% from behind the arc. So good for George. He's averaging almost 28 minutes per game, and he was only averaging about 20 minutes for the Cavaliers. So he's getting more time on the floor, and he's shooting 48% from the 2-point range. I mean, he's getting 4 rebounds a game for Atlanta. They miss more shots, but he only got 3 in his 20 minutes with the Cavaliers. He's keeping his numbers up playing with a clearly worse team. And that's another thing I feel bad for with players. You find yourself in a good situation for maybe the first time in your career and you get shipped out. And that's an unfortunate thing. He's making the most, and he's averaging a good, I think the number of points per game, I can probably look this up as well. His points per game, he's averaging 14 a night for the Hawks, which I think is pretty damn good. So Karis LeVert, on the other hand, not so good. His cold 3% 3-point shooting has really hit him right square in the face. I can do this for his career so you can see where it all fits in. And he's been in the league for some time now, since 2016. And his 3-point numbers were 32%, 34, 31, 36, 31, 34, 32, 31, 39, 30. That was with his first year with the Cavaliers. He was 31, then 39 in 2022, then down to 32. Then this year he was shooting 40.5, a career high. All right. And now with the Hawks, it's 32 again. The fact is, we know what he is. He's a volume shooter, and he's a guy with long arms, but he's not a particularly good defender. Now, those two guys trade bait, and they found a willing partner, and they found DeAndre Hunter. Now, DeAndre Hunter was the leading scorer off the bench with the Hawks, which would make sense. They play at pace, and if you can get a shot away from Trae Young, you're going to be playing a lot of transition basketball. And George Niang is getting off more shots, and he's scoring more points. But Karis LeVert is not. He's only averaging, well, I take it back. He's averaging the same number of points per game that he has scored with the Cavaliers and last year at 14. He was only averaging 10 this year, but he was getting, about 24 minutes with the Cavs and about 28 minutes per game for the Hawks. But the 3-point percentage is not good. But these two guys, you cash them in for DeAndre Hunter. And the thing with Hunter is he's going the opposite direction from a team that really has no business. They might make the playoffs, but nobody's taking them very seriously because they have a ball hog at point guard and they don't really put up enough points, and they don't play any defense to speak of. And DeAndre Hunter is a guy who made his mark with Ty Jerome at the University of Virginia with defense. And he's worked hard to become a very capable NBA scorer, 18.9 off the bench playing for the Hawks. Now, he's not averaging that much. He's averaging 13 a night with the Cavaliers. But his defense and his rebounding are vastly superior than the two men that we traded. And he fits what the Cavaliers need. And this is, again, when I talk about an organizational strength, the Cavaliers seem to have the knack to have the understanding of what type of player will fit in with this team. I think it helps that the team is open and welcoming, and the fact that Ty Jerome played with him in college and won the national championship together with him. But the team warms up to players, and they're all together, and they're fighting for a singular goal to win a championship. Now, the problem is, will they remain that way? If they do accomplish their goal, we've seen players who just revert to Kyrie Irving for him and just try to get the best deal they can go and go to a bigger city. We've seen it before, but this Cavaliers team is everything that old Boston Celtics teams are, everything that the Spurs were. Team. They didn't care in San Antonio who was going to score the basketball. They all shared the basketball. And with the Celtics, it was the same way. They always had stars, but in the heyday of Bill Russell, it was John Havlicek and JoJo White and Larry Siegfried and Don Nelson And, there was just a slew of players, and they all at one time or another could hurt you. And the Golden State Warriors were the same way. I mean, God forbid. I mean, it's like Steph Curry, who, God, did he go off last night? To make at least he's still somewhat relevant. And the national press said, thank you, Jesus, for allowing Steph to hit 56 points in a night. So we can talk about him again. But
there's a good stat about that too. They were talking about how many he's had 9 games of more than 50 after turning age 30 something or whatever.
Yeah.
And the total number of games that he's had like that, I guess the second best, I don't know, he's like outdone the next best person by like 30 games. It's phenomenal. And then you look at that and you look what happened with the Lakers, and freaking LeBron looks like somebody gave him having the situation there. He just looks enthusiastic all of a sudden. The man's played, 22 years in the league? I mean, he's played since he was 18 years old. I mean, good grief.
A lot of mileage. And want it is a big part of this, and taking care of your body and working at your trade is a big part of this. And George Niang didn't really do that. Karis LeVert is a guy who, to be honest with you, is a bench player, but he's kind of a guy who comes off the bench and can score in bunches on a given night, but he's not a guy that you want to feed a lot of minutes to. It's why he fit in Cleveland so well, because his lower extremity injuries didn't hit him this year playing the number of minutes he was playing, because they're just really just doling out minutes so equally on this roster that it's a thing to behold. DeAndre Hunter isn't playing as much time as he did in Atlanta, but for him, it's going from an organization that is really not going anywhere. And I think as long as Trae Young is there, he's an undersized volume shooter. He has an oh wow factor, but it's not about winning. And they're going to be a 500 or close to it kind of team. And now he's getting an opportunity to step up to the major leagues, man, a team that has a legitimate chance of winning the championship. And we're going to see more of DeAndre Hunter and what it means to him and how he handles the pressure of being in a real honest to God, having a chance to win it all situation. So far, very, very good. And hello to Christopher Milton. How are you doing? Nice to see you. And hello to Ron Shane. Hello. And that's right, Rich. LeVert is a guy who sometimes could really wow you, and he'd get on a roll. There'd be other games where he couldn't throw a rock into the ocean, and he would turn the ball over because he was handling the ball too much. The biggest problems really, and I'm not going to sit here and piss on George Niang and Karis LeVert, but you take a look at what was behind them on the roster, they were expendable. The problem with those two men, and we saw it firsthand when teams started pressing us up and down the floor and we were turning the ball over. It was because Karis LeVert was not a good ball handler. George Niang couldn't handle the ball at all. We were playing smaller lineups, but not with good ball handlers. The reason these men were expendable is because of Ty Jerome, because of CPJ, guys who can handle the ball and put points up. And CPJ plays bigger and taller than he is because he has springs in his legs. And just the opposite, Ty Jerome has this. He's got smarts, knows how to use his body, and he's scoring points per minute. So he's doing what they wanted from Karis LeVert, but he's also not hogging the ball to do it. He's not a volume shooter, but he's making a good percentage of his shots and sharing the ball with other players. It's really amazing to watch. And that's exactly right. That's why those guys were expendable. And I feel bad for them because they're forced to go to a team that is going nowhere. And that has been Karis LeVert's unfortunate identity since being drafted, but not really playing much for the Pacers. And then going to the Nets during a complete rebuild. And as soon as they got better, they shipped him off to Cleveland. It has been a tough ride. And by the time Cleveland gets to the point where they're really serious about contending, he's gone and he's back to another team that's going nowhere. It's really a difficult thing. Will the starters play a few extra minutes tonight? No, there's going to be no reason to change a winning formula, Ron. And what it amounts to is 30 is the limit. You're not seeing guys much playing over 30 minutes for the Cavaliers. And in many instances, they've been winning games by such large margins that they're 27, 28 minutes. And I mean, people like Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and it's cut back on their injuries, which is a great thing. One thing I want to say about Darius Garland, go ahead, Hammer.
And I was going to say that there's a corollary to that for Ohio State this year with Quinshon Judkins coming in and Travion Henderson, where you had two, very powerful running backs that, particularly with Trey, was getting hurt all the time, and both of them ended up with over 1,000 yards. And
game breakers, but in fewer opportunities, right?
And that was the thing, is that when you had this long season, which the NBA 82 games plus whatever for the in-season tournament stuff, that's a long season. And then the playoffs, oh my gosh, it seems like the playoffs never end. I mean, we start the playoffs and it's June before we're done, the middle of June. It's one of those kind of things. So you absolutely need to have that rest. You've got to balance that out. There's no question they're going to be, a high seed, even if they get on a roll. The other part is they've won 8 in a row now, going for 9. I mean, what a great, unbelievable season.
They pull this off on the road, and we'll talk about that in just a moment here. They could be 50-10. I mean, who in the hell could have foreseen? Just amazing. What I was going to say about Darius Garland, he cannot go back to driving the ball to the hoop, taking it strong. His body can't hold up doing that. And more recently, he's not shooting the floater as much. He's trying to drive in and drive all the way through the paint come out the other side and that sort of thing. He's just not safe in the tall trees. He ended up with a hip and falling face first to the ground and getting slapped in the face again, and all the things that were going wrong. We cannot afford to lose Darius Garland, and they need to tell him, you're going to play the minutes that you're going to play, but we need you to be efficient, not just in sharing the ball, but the shots that you select, stop. Shoot that floater. He's deadly with it. Just deadly with it. I just don't want to see him get hurt, but there's going to be no change in the strategy of Kenny Atkinson because it's working so damn well. So, and that's right. We're exactly, we're beyond where we were in total wins last year. And that's really something. And it's funny that they're saying that about JB Bickerstaff and the Pistons to beat Oklahoma City. And, who in the hell saw that coming? But they're having a wonderful year in Detroit, and compared to the horrible seasons they've had in the past couple of years. And they, but you don't usually say a 48 win team doesn't go into potential contention for 65 to 70 wins. A plus 17 usually doesn't happen for teams when they reach that 48 win period. It gets kind of crowded in the NBA. Teams fighting for whether they're going to be, in second or third place or in fourth place, and what home court advantage they have. The significance, and that's exactly right, C. Martin. That's absolutely right. It was another one of these things that happened to the Cavaliers that we don't get the call on. The extended arm shove a guy in the back, and he hits his face flat against the floor. Very unfortunate situation. What the important thing about the Celtics game, this is do or die for them. They're 6.5 games behind us. They've played one more game than we have this year. So let's say there's 7 games. I should say, if you're looking at it this way, they're about 7 games behind us. And we're at 59 played, 23 left. Right? They have 22 left. If the Cavaliers beat the Celtics tonight and it gets pushed to 8, or 7.5 games, they will have to have an 8-game differential over the final 22 games of the season, or for them 21, to surpass the Cavaliers for that home court advantage. So this will pretty well do them in if they lose this game. Not the same for the Cavaliers. If the Cavaliers lose the game, which I think the betting odds are saying the Cavaliers will lose the game, it's because of the maturity of the Celtics team, the home court advantage, and all of that. And, of course, the officiating, which always seems to go Boston's way. But still, it would be devastating. If the Celtics lost this game, they would have some splaining to do. I mean, serious explaining. Because it's like you're telling us that this team is some young up-and-coming team and they don't have the heft and the balls to beat you at your home court. If the Cavaliers do that to them, and they've been doing it to every other team in the league, if that were to happen, if there's a Cavalanche inside the Garden, there are going to be some unhappy people in Boston. And it will mean that they're playing for the number 2 position, not any longer for the number 1 position. If the Cavs lose, they'll still be 5.5 up, and they can just get their shit together and move on. But this is the great opportunity to land a knockout punch. And that's what this game is all about. I mean, this is these teams are going to be in the playoffs come hell or high water, both of them. But this is the moment of truth. This is like a heavyweight fight. And you go in, and both guys are trying to knock the other one out. And somebody is going to land the big punch, and somebody's not. And it's going to change everything. If the Cavaliers land the big punch tonight, it's going to change everything. The perception of media, the perception of fans, and the feeling inside the Boston Celtic locker room. If they get Cavalanched in their home, I mean, I couldn't believe watching what the Cavaliers were doing to teams in the other team's buildings. And you could hear some of the fans in the background cheering on the Cavaliers on the road. The momentum.
In Orlando,
yes.
There's a big volleyball tournament going on the last 2 weekends. There was a ton of people from Cleveland there. And a couple of friends of mine are showing the people left in the stands at the end of the 40-point Cavalanche that night. And it's all these Cleveland fans, plus all the ones that moved down there, too. So
yep.
it was a whole crowd. And I will say the last time I was in the Kia Center, it was the other way around, unfortunately, last year. So.
Yeah, just now, C. Martin, are you set? Is Porzingis definitely out? He was day-to-day with illness. Please, and I'm seeing it now from Rich as well. So they have turned him It's kind of like election night, blue or red, right? They've switched the card on him and he's out, I guess. And that really changes the way that they defend the Cavaliers, because Porzingis is a guy who can make the 3-point shot, and that's what Boston does so well. They got Pritchard coming off the bench. You got Porzingis who can throw up threes. You got Brown and Tyson who can throw up threes. You have or Tatum, I'm sorry. That's what they do. But Porzingis does still give them a very tall body to crowd the lane with. And if he's not out there, that's not going to help him. And no Drew, that I know, and he's a very good defensive player. Drew Holiday is a veteran who plays very good defense. So yeah, you guys, thank you for being on top of this. I appreciate it, because I only have 2 hooves working at this point. My other 2 are on the ground. And Ron is already fantasizing. You're going to have, Hunter on Brown. Well, I mean, first you're going to start out with Okoro, and, I don't know who's going to guard who in the great scheme of things, but it would be different at the end of a game, depending on whether you're trying to stop the Celtics from shooting threes. The thing we have to look out for is Pritchard coming off the bench, because he has been dynamic on 3-point shots, and the Celtics move the ball well, and they're a very mature team. And it's not that they're old, but they're wizened. They've been there and they've done that. So you have to keep hands up in 3-point shooters' faces. That's going to draw Cavaliers out to the 3-point line, which is going to allow the Celtics to rebound. The other thing is, if the Cavaliers are forced into a zone defense to try to prevent the kind of 3-point, shooting situation, the Boston version of the 3-point Cavalanche, that's going to change a lot of things. The Cavaliers zone makes them a less effective rebounding team. The only way you win in Boston is if you force misses and one attempt and grab the rebound, because I'm confident that over the course of a game, the Cavaliers will score points. That's something that the season has proven. The real question is, can they rebound consistently and consistently play the kind of defense? Because what's demoralizing is when they score 130 points in a game, the defense is holding other teams to like 106. It's contagious. Now, Garland is going to be is rested. He's going to be, assuming that his hip is okay. And that is a big part of this. You're not going to beat the Celtics with 2-point shots. And the Cavaliers and the Celtics, both shoot a lot of threes. The Celtics shoot more threes than the Cavs, I do believe. And in that building, they can catch on fire, and they got guys who really knock them down off the bench and in the starting lineup. And that is the best strategy, is you run them off the 3-point line, and then you have Jarrett Allen and you have Evan Mobley, and let's see if they can shoot over those guys in the paint. And without Porzingis, let's see, we'll take our chances of getting rebounds without a 7'3" guy being on the floor for them. It's going to be an interesting basketball game. And again, sometimes it just goes that way. We've seen it with the Cavaliers where they just can't miss. I'm not worried about tonight. I really want to see, from a maturity perspective, how the Cavaliers handle the bright lights. And there's no question the Cavaliers are a young basketball team, and they're on their way up. And there's no question that it's a very bright future for the Cleveland Cavaliers. The question is, when does greatness touch the team? And this is just one of those opportunities, just like the playoffs are, This is an opportunity to be touched by greatness and to be able to prove to a defending championship team that you can come into their building and beat them. And it doesn't get any better than that. And you got to earn your stripes. So Cavaliers will have an opportunity. And, do they have to win this? No, I don't agree with that, Captain Fierce. They don't have to win it. But man, the strut that you see in these players and how loose they're playing, if they can go out and do this to the defending champions, you just hope they don't become overconfident. But they got the ability to do this. There's no doubt in my mind they have the ability. It's got to come out of them organically. That's the way this works. And you got to live up to the moment. And this is an opportunity for them to live up to the moment. Double P says he wants the Cavs to win, but he thinks Boston takes this one. Well, they're favored. Yes, and Spider loves to play against the Celtics anytime he's on the big stage on national television. And that's all you have to say. The last 4 games the Cavs have played have been on national television. I mean, since LeBron, you haven't seen such a thing. So it's great. As far as exploiting them in the paint, that's getting rebounds. But you got to be able to score with the Celtics. They're going to shoot threes. The Cavaliers are a team that if they get the rebound and they get into the transition offense, and I don't mean just fast breaking, although Mobley and Allen are running the floor and doing a great job finishing at the rim on transition plays, but getting into a position where you can shoot open threes and don't let the Celtics get their defensive feet set. That's a huge thing, but it all starts with getting rebounds. You can't give up second opportunities, and we've seen that in some instances. Porzingis not being in there, and the Celtics, if they do lose, will have, that as an excuse, and on it goes. At some point, teams have to prove themselves, and this is a great opportunity for both teams to prove and state their case. I'm sure if the Celtics win, they'll say, they're not ready for prime time. And if the Cavaliers win, I think that the Celtics are going to feel scared. That's what I think. Jerome and Hunter, Virginia Cavaliers going to lead the second unit and dominate. Well, that's been the case this season. They've just been, and the amazing part of it is the departure of LeVert and Niang, which we talked about earlier in the program, just hasn't affected them. They've just kept, if anything, the momentum has gotten bigger. It's something to behold. That's a fan's excitement. If we're double-digit winning in Boston on national television, wow, that would be something. And that is the other part of the equation. These guys have been there and done it, and they know how to bring out their best game. And I think they're going to bring out their best game tonight, because I'll tell you exactly what it's like. It's like when 2 guys fight for the heavyweight championship of the world. The worst thing that can happen is if the champion can get a guy out early and doesn't do it. And I can tell you the stories of Larry Holmes. He had Ronaldo Snipes scared to death. Snipes didn't even belong in the ring with him, and he's just kind of carrying him and fucking around. And man, that became a serious fight. And Snipes knocked Holmes almost out of the championship. You never let a team get its bearings. And you know that the Celtics are going to come out and try to immediately impose themselves on the Cavaliers for that reason. And they believe they can beat anyone. But the way you put doubt in somebody's mind is you bitch slap them. And the Cavaliers, if they're able to cavalanche and run up, 16-0 runs against a team like Boston, that's going to really scare the shit out of them. And all the swag that they say, well, you don't care about the one seed. What you care about is that you can't allow a team that has been doing this consistently throughout the year have these runs where they score that many points. And you can make the argument it was a weak playoff as far as opponent wise for Boston. And you're right. Every one of those teams were missing major pieces and everything fell in the right place for the Celtics. But they carry with them the mystique of the Celtics through Russell, Havlicek, Bird. This is something that can get into people's heads. And the Cavaliers just have to prove, just like the Spurs did at one time. It's like, it's one thing to win regular season games, but you've got to, and it's one thing, and especially now, to win regular season games against really weak opponents like the Wizards, teams that don't win many games at all, teams that are basically losing intentionally to try to get a pick out of this, a high pick. A lot of these season games are meaningless because there is a huge disparity between the teams on the top and the teams on the bottom. Used to be there was a big fat middle, but the Cavaliers are beating teams on the big fat middle by 20 points a night. There's a big difference between the top ones and the middle ones. So and I think the NBA is old-fashioned. I think that what you're going to be looking at is Tatum pushing off with his off arm, which is something that is discouraging to me because you know that if it comes down to a close game at the end and they have to get a shot off, it doesn't matter what defender you put on him because he's going to take his off arm, his left arm, and just shove and extend and push you to the ground so he can get his shot off. And they will never call him for it. So that's a problem. And if we do that, they're going to blow the whistle. So the thing to look at also tonight is how many times do the Celtics go to the free throw line? And because the Cavs are going to come out and try to play assertive defense. Will they be blowing whistles and putting them over 30 times at the free throw line? And I've seen it before. So, I don't predict. I just say that it's a great opportunity for the Cavaliers, and it's going to be fun to watch. I hope. I hope he has damn good reason to cry. All right. Hammer time, do you have anything else to say before we get out of here?
The only thing I'm thinking of is, about a year ago, we were thinking about breaking up the core four. Boy, that looks, in hindsight, that looks really bad now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was just going to say, that was, we can't have these four guys together. We got to trade them. We got to trade this. We got to trade that. And they start off with that huge start. And the first thing you think of, they're going to cool off and come back to earth. And they're going to play 500 or a little bit above ball the rest of the way. And they haven't done that all year. And that's the part that's so amazing, is that this team just doesn't think it can lose. They're just nuts. There's nobody that they think they can lose to. So, got to get the popcorn out, have an adult beverage, enjoy this one. Hopefully, even if they don't win, hopefully they show some things. Probably the best thing I saw in the last couple of weeks was when they beat the pants off the Knicks, right? And they cut back to ESPN, and in the studio is Stephen A. Smith.
Abject shock.
Oh my! He is like I am in the bar laughing my butt off, and the people there think that I'm stranger than normal, and I'm just like, every time he talked, I just kept laughing because it was hilarious. He was just like, I am so depressed. We are so bad. Blah blah blah. I was like, I'm going. maybe the other team's kind of good. You know, it was so beautiful because the Knicks have really kind of had their number, and they match up real well, and that was just a take them to the woodshed moment. So, hey, let's hopefully no matter what happens, it's a nice thing. Let's keep this run going. Big thing in Columbus tomorrow night, the outdoor hockey game stadium series, expecting 90,000 people in the shoe. Go watch a little hockey. So have a great weekend.
Oh, you too, Hammer. Thanks. The other thing is, all the talk about Darius Garland and the broken jaw, his loss of weight, but also not building his body as well and his strength maybe as well as he could have, led me to say some things about Darius Garland, saying, I wonder if he really has the resolve. Well, I think he answered the question himself. And that's the way it is with all athletes. They either bounce back and work harder at their sport, or they go off into, as Mike Tyson would say, Bolivian. For him, he got some of his strength back and he started playing smarter. He's being utilized smarter by a head coach. The more it went on, the more I realized looking back that it was just a lack of direction as far as from the head coach, a lack of knowledge of how to put together a sound offense that hurt the Cavaliers. They were easily guarded and defended. And in the playoffs, where things get very physical, too much pound, and they were just getting their shorts handed to them. But this year, I can honestly say that Niang and LeVert have been my targets for being traded, and that's exactly what happened. But there was a good reason. It's not that I don't like George Niang or Karis LeVert. There's limitations to those players and the team. When you have a weakness, and that weakness is rebounding and defense in some instances, that's making you have to go into zone defenses for prolonged periods and given games, it's not a good thing. And they had an opportunity to upgrade themselves, not only getting a good bench scorer, but a good defender on top of it, and DeAndre Hunter. And you don't turn your back on that. And nobody saw Ty Jerome coming like this. This is a surprise. And it's great having pleasant surprises in Cleveland, isn't it? I want to thank everybody for joining me on the program today, Hammer Time, and everybody in the chat room. And it's 7:30 tonight, depending on where you are and how you can watch it, at ESPN nationally, FanDuel on a more local regional basis. You should be watching this and not whining about the Cleveland Browns. Okay? Thanks for watching, and we'll be back on Monday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Moo.
Moo.